So it is approximately 32 days after my hair surgery, and it looks kind of weird. So, the first thing I notice is that all of my hairs are coming back in, like the hairs that were originally there that I shaved off. But I was immediately drawn to the fact that those hairs were actually pretty thin and sparsely located on the crown of my head. So I know that after the first couple weeks of the videos, I was really optimistic about how much hair growth there was. Lo and behold, that was actually just my hair already. And, my hair didn't actually go through all of the hair loss processes that you should expect to go through when getting these types of surgeries. But I've been following the doctor's orders. I've been conditioning and shampooing and taking the supplement of minoxidil every single day, at least when I remember, so most days. And I've also been putting this little spray on top of my head to make everything grow a little bit better. And this is the update. Let's check it out. All right, so I'm gonna get really close so you can see my head, and hopefully, because this is a 4K camera, you're able to see some of the small hairs that are actually getting grown, and some of the small hairs that are really coming in, and you can see like the little placements of where they're about to come in, which is really cool to see. Now currently I still look like a dude who shaved his head and is getting a buzz cut back. And I'm a decently tall person, so when you're looking at me, you won't be able to see the top of my head, but I still wanted to show it to everyone anyways, partially because I think my hair looks like how my dad's looked, how I remember it looking when I was a tiny kid, where I'm able to see some of the crown area exposed. So actually my dad gave me a call a couple days ago, right before it was 94 degrees outside in San Jose, California. Reminded me that I should be wearing a hat and putting on sunscreen. I was pretty quick to the trigger to tell him that I was already wearing a hat and I was already wearing sunscreen, because it's pretty obvious that if there were a 1v1 fight between the sun and my head right now, the sun would win. So the hair's coming in. We're only 32 days after surgery, so that's always a good thing to hear. I'm still alive, still kicking, still saying good things about this surgery, so at least you know that my other videos weren't a bunch of nonsense. And I think after about 3 months, so after about 90 days, allegedly that's when the hair should be around 70% in. So when I say it should be 70% in, I mean all of the little donor areas and the donor hairs should be making their way to grow and extend and come in full, hardy and healthy, really thick. So right now is just kind of a time where it's the interim, where the hairs on my head that were already there but were thinner, a little bit more fragile, a little bit more dainty, they're growing back. They're growing back hard, as you can tell. The sides and the back of my head, you can tell that those buzz cuts are coming back, which actually is a really good point. If you look at the sides of my head, could you tell that there were 3,608 hairs that were pulled out and removed? I don't know, because I can't really see the sides or the back of my head. But at the same time, I could definitely see that, if I would have shaved my head and gone for the bald look, I would definitely be thinned out up top. And, just looking at it right now, this is exactly one of the reasons why I did get that surgery in the first place is, if there's a 1v1 between the sun and my head, I need to get more of these reinforcements on the back and the sides of my head, those little hair follicles, and put them on top. so that way they could help protect me a little bit better. But yeah, I'm pretty happy with the progress. You know, you're always going to see me with a couple hats outside. I've been wearing my Idaho hat, you know, go Vandals. But I also just purchased a couple bucket hats to also like help improve the sun block on my head. And I got one of the bucket hats embroidered, which is why it's taken a little bit longer to get here, because it's going to have the logo of either the 3-drink minimum or lunch break salad shake on there. And I'm assuming it's going to be the 3-drink minimum. But other than that, quite honestly, doesn't look like much is happening. But, you know, if you really look closely, you could see the little hairs growing in there. And if you look really closely, you could see some of the hairs growing on the lines that they, you know, implanted them in. So, heads up, if you get this surgery, you're going to be in it for the long haul. You're not just going to be, you know, looking good after 30 days after the wounds heal, because, you know, this is, you know, things you got to do to keep it growing. And actually, now that we're bringing that up, you know, I could see some pimples that are growing on the top of my head and sometimes in the back. And because of that, you know, the doctor gave me what do you call those things when the doctor calls in a prescription for you? He gave me a prescription for, I think, an acne clear-upper. So it's some type of antibacterial thing, I guess. But I'm going to start taking that, and, you know, it's funny, as soon as I started taking it, more pimples started popping up. So I'm hoping that it means that, you know, the antibiotics is working, and it's actually pushing out the impurities out of my head. So that way it'll just leave for good hairs to grow well, grow fast, and grow strong. Another thing that's popping up is next Friday I have the around the 1 month follow-up with my doctor, the 1 month surgery follow-up, and, you know, he'll be able to see the hair for the first time in real life, because the other meetings that we had were on Zoom or on the telephone. And then another thing that they're going to do is, you know, I don't know the exact name of the procedure, but I think they're going to take out some blood from my arm. They're going to, you know, if anyone here has ever donated, raise your hand if you've donated plasma before in your life. Raise your hand if you donated plasma because they were paying you around $30 every time you donated plasma. Raise your hand higher if you donated plasma every single time that you could during college in order to help pay bills and, you know, give you some walking around cash. So apparently what they're going to be doing at this hair institute is they're going to be pulling out my blood. They're going to be getting the plasma out of there. They're going to be, you know, getting the platelets out by some type of centrifuge type of situation. And then once they get the platelets and once they get the plasma out, and, you know, I might be saying the wrong stuff, but you get my drift. They're going to take that, the differentiated part of my blood, and then they're going to insert it back into my head. And, you know, one way that it's been explained to me is apparently there's shots people can take that include what's the word I'm looking for? They're the types of cells that can convert to any type of cell once they're implanted, so they're very broad in their application. But, you know, another way it's been told to me is it's essentially like getting Miracle-Gro inserted back into my head for the hairs to kind of pick up on and start growing off of, like a hair fertilizer. So it's an extra charge. That charge I think is around $500, and, you know, I think you only get it a couple times throughout the life cycle of your post-surgery aftercare, and I opted in. So I'll give you an update on that, because, You know, if you recall from one of the earlier videos, the only thing that really hurt when they were completing the surgery, aside from, you know, being there all day, was when they stuck the initial needles in my head when they were putting in the pain blockers, when they were giving me the pain medications to numb out my scalp. That felt the weirdest. That also felt, there were definitely feelings of pain in there when they were doing that. So I'll let you know, because I'm about to let them do it one more time on next Friday. That's actually this Friday in a few days. And then, you know, after that, I think I could do it again in 6 months, and then again in another 6 months or something like that. I'll keep you posted on that. But, you know, it's not looking bad. It's looking fly. You know, my beard's looking good. My beard's turning red, which is great. And, you know, the face card never declines. So even if this did not look great, shoot, I might just shave my head at that point. Just because, you know, I kind of like the look of having my head shaved. And, you know, if there's one good thing that comes out of this is, you know, I haven't shaved my head since 2005. So it at least gave me another checkpoint in my life where I had a shaved head, and I was able to brag about that and roll around with, you know, my little bucket hat and everything. So just want to give you guys a quick update. Still kicking, day 32 after surgery, and it's not looking bad, not looking bad. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments. Always down to help some people and share a little bit more of my experiences doing this. So catch you later.